What's going on, everybody? Tonight we're going to be talking about Morbius and why you should not be sleeping on this character at all, because he is going to be a very solid plug-and-play character for War offense, at least in my opinion, and he's going to have some pretty solid viability outside of there as well. I think he's going to be a character that you can find some use for in Arena, like we have with T'Challa. And also, you know, he could be a good option in Dark Dimension. We're going to be trying that here in the future. But we're going to basically talk about why, like, even if you're not building up Dark Hunters, this is a character, he is the linchpin of Dark Hunters, but he is a character that even if you're not going to be building up that team, you're still going to get some really good use for him outside of this Dark Hunter team in War. You're going to see him in other modes as well. So we're going to talk about that in tonight's video. If you guys do enjoy this video, do you find it informative, make sure that like button and subscribe to the channel. And let's just start with it. So the kit for Mr. Morbius, we're gonna start here. So his basic, the problem with his basic right now is that in order to get the health steal with his basic and on his bonus ISO attack, the primary target must have bleed, and this is a little tricky. But this is where his ultimate can come into play a little bit, because that can flip deflect into bleed, which is very nice to have. But you're going to want to find some characters who could possibly put bleed out there and then follow up with these basic attacks from Morbius. The health steal, that's something I think is more built for Dark Dimension, because you have these characters that have 1.5, 2 million and more health in DD5, and this basic with this in the ISO attack is going to steal a solid chunk of damage from them each time, and it's going to heal him up. It bypasses heal block. So as long as you can get him attacking, if you're going to need to get him at least survivable enough in Dark Dimension, it's probably going to be about 4 to 5 stars at least. You have this, you can like rest, you can be safe in the knowledge that as long as he's surviving these hits, he's going to heal himself back up because of this health steal, because it's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to steal a lot of health, and it's going to heal him up quite a bit, and heal block's not going to be able to prevent him from healing up. So it's a lot like Omega Red in this, and the constant health steal. And then you have the trauma and the heal block and War offense that is tied to City Hero. But you got this here on a special where you can apply 3 bleed to the primary and secondary target. That is 3 bleed. That's a lot of bleeds right there. And then this is where I think that theory crafting with DD5 can come into play, because you can use that with, say, like Ghost Spider, who can spread that out to everybody. And then you just have bleeds on everybody. You have Raider on her. She's putting vulnerables on everybody. And then you get a bunch of follow-up attacks. And you can also bring in Symbiote Spider-Man at that point to prolong these. So there's really good synergy here, and this is why I think like he could be a good option for DD5 because of this with the bleeds. You bring in those 2 symbiotes, or you bring in Symbiote Spider-Man, you bring in Ghost Spider, you bring in Scarlet Spider as well, who will prolong negative effects as well. You're going to have a lot of bleeds flying around the place that lets Morbius do his thing. This special, it's not necessarily bad. There's nothing crazy here. For War or anything, there's no War bonuses here. It's kind of interesting that everything in his kit except his special has like something tied to War, or targeting some specific City Hero targets, or teamed up with Dark Hunters. But you know, this is something here. I mean, 3 bleeds, and we're going to talk about his damage here in a little bit. He gets piercing damage as well. These bleeds are going to do a lot of damage as well, because he has such a high amount of damage. He gets a boost to himself through his passive. He does get that piercing damage through his passive as well. Those bleeds are going to deal a lot of damage as well. So, you know, keep that in mind. And then his ultimate. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about this ultimate when we talk about his plug-and-play viability for War, because one of the big issues is that his ultimate is not going to be a turn 1 ability. And I was thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, you know, this could be like a boost killer. Like, you have all these teams, you boost them up, you give them 3 stacks of deflect. A lot of defensive teams also get defense up at the start. And this ultimate right here can flip defense up and deflect. You don't need City Heroes for that. You don't need Dark Hunters. This will always flip defense up and deflect. In War, it can't be countered or blocked. So they can stack all the deflect they want. He's just gonna flip them because they can't be blocked. So he's gonna flip all those deflects into bleeds. He's gonna flip that defense up into defense down. And then if he is on War offense and 3 or more Dark Hunter allies, trauma, heal block, and disruptive City Hero primary target, and trauma and heal block to all City Hero secondary targets. This is one where I think it could be useful for fighting Young Avengers, because Ms. Marvel is a City Hero. Use this on her. She gets disrupted, trauma, and heal block. Squirrel Girl can't clear that off of her. Now Squirrel Girl's also going to get the trauma and heal block. So there's a little something there maybe, but that's something we're going to have to test. But just the fact that you can flip defense up and deflect, I thought you're like, okay, cool. Thinking about that would be great. Like, you do that turn 1, and someone who's boosted is now suddenly all those deflects have been flipped into bleeds. That's great. He does have a lot of damage on his stats, so those bleeds are going to hit hard at the same time. It is a 2-turn cooldown. Or as a second turn ability, this is where you had to bring in Dr. Voodoo, and Dr. Voodoo needs a full Dark Hunter team with him to give the ability and energy so Morbius can use this. However, that does not necessarily mean this ultimate is completely useless in war, and we're going to talk about that in some characters, and some examples of why, like, even as a 2-turn or a second turn ability, this is still going to have a lot of viability behind it. And then you get to his passive, the 30% piercing, the 20% drain. That's great. On war offense, if he has 3 or more Dark Hunter allies blind to the 4 highest damage city hero enemies, 300% bonus focus for city heroes, don't need to worry about that. 30% bonus damage to him and Dark Hunter allies. That's what we're really focusing on. The city heroes, these first 2 lines are all about heroes for hire. And we're not focusing on what we can do with him against heroes for hire. We already know what he can do. So I'm not really worried about that. It's the 30% boost in damage plus the 30% piercing. You add that in to the bleeds up here, the deflects that he can flip into bleeds, and you've got a pretty respectable character. And then if you go and look at his stats, in terms of health, you can see him right here. He's tied with characters like Multiple Man, Polaris, Silver Surfer, a little bit behind Ravager Stitcher, but top 30 in terms of health, which is very respectable. His damage is tied with Squirrel Girl of all characters, but still top 20 right there, tied for 15th with Squirrel Girl, a little bit behind Silver Surfer and Black Bolt, but keep in mind, he gets that 30% boost to damage. He gets a 30% piercing on top of that. Piercing will ignore armor, so this damage really stacks up. He's going to get a solid amount of damage here with this, and then his armor, not as impressive. He's just inside, he's about 30th place there in armor, close to Ghost Rider. His focus is also very respectable at 27th. That is some pretty good focus right there. You're tied with characters like Kestrel, Mr. Sin, or a little bit ahead of Kestrel, a little bit behind characters like Echo and Spider-Punk. So that focus could be a little low. Maybe, we'll have to see how things work out, but shouldn't have too much of a problem with flipping at this level of focus. That's not really a problem. We'll have to do testing to see how that works out. And then resistance, top 30 again in terms of resistance. So he's like top 30, top 20 across the board in a lot of his stats. That's not bad. The thing that really stands out about him, though, is his speed. He is the 6th fastest character in the game, behind Black Bolt, Yo-Yo, Hawkeye, Daredevil, and Gamora. Very respectable speed here at 128. That's very good, even faster than Ghost Rider. So he is one of the faster characters. So if you could find a way to get him ability energy on turn 1 outside of the Dark Hunter's team, he could become that kind of deflect killer because he's going to be one of the first characters to move. He's also a Mystic controller, and the thought was maybe do something with him and Loki. Loki gives him that 10% speed bar boost, and maybe you could find something there with that to allow him to kind of just go a little bit faster. If there was a way we could get ability energy on him on turn 1, and then you throw in Loki at the same time, there is a good potential that, yeah, he could be that kind of character you see a tough team with deflect on it. You think about throwing in Morbius and letting him go to town, because that defense down and no deflects, all of a sudden a team that looked really formidable with those boosts, now not so much. So this is something to consider him with war. And also we were talking about plug and play options. Even though you can't use him on turn 1, there are characters out there that are going to get deflect on a couple of another turn in, and you can use that to counter them. One character that comes to mind is Captain America, Sam, or Captain Sam, whatever we call him. His special, Stars and Stripes. He gets deflect and counter on himself, applies defense up to all allies. There you go. So this is one where Sam, he's a little slower initially than Morbius, but Sam uses his ultimate. He then speeds himself up. He gets speed bar. He's probably going to use his special before Morbius can get a second turn. So now you have a Sam that's got deflect on himself. He's got counter and everything. On War Offense, Morbius' special or ultimate cannot be countered and cannot be blocked. So you can use it to flip the deflex on Sam into bleeds and defense down. However, the problem is going to be that he does have that bonus resistance while he has deflect. So this is one where probably not going to work. However, he can chain down the line. He can flip that defense up and a defense down on other characters. So, you know, it's probably not going to be able to get rid of the deflex on Sam, which means that then his taunt is gone. But, you know, it's probably not going to work on Sam, but it will flip the defense up on the rest of the team and the defense down. If they have any deflex, they will also be flipped. Yeah, probably won't work too well against Sam, but also another thing, too, is Young Avengers. If you're not building that Dark Hunters team, you're trying to find some teams to beat Young Avengers if you need to. You know, Squirrel Girl, she gets defense up and deflect to Young Avenger allies as they fall low on health. You use Morbius, you flip that with his ultimate. Now you're also applying that trauma and heal block and disrupt it to city hero characters. So there's a couple of different uses where, like, there's situations where Morbius is not going to be relegated to just a Dark Hunters team. And that's been the big concern. And that's something I've been trying to figure out, is because, like, the big concern with Dark Hunters is that they're basically tailored to counter Heroes for Hire. So we're trying to find other uses for some of these characters. And Morbius is like the linchpin of that team. That trauma, the heal block, the bonus damage, the piercing damage, the bleeds, everything. He's kind of the central character of Dark Hunters. So if you're not going to build that whole team, the question is, where can you use him? And these are like a couple examples. I'm sure there's more out there. Again, if there was a way we could get that ability energy onto Morbius on that first turn, I have to wonder if maybe there's something there. If you could find a way, like, say, for example, if you brought in Hela and Greg and Mordo, maybe there's something there. But there's got to be a trick to getting Star-Lord, or not Star-Lord, I'm thinking Star-Lord in my mind, but there's got to be a way to get Morbius built up with that ability energy. And I'm sure over time I'll try to think of something, but right now I can't really think of anything. Also, Infinity Watch, you know, they do gain deflex and defense up as they follow on health, but I do believe Adam Warlock's passive does give him safeguard, so not going to work as well. Let me see where it is. Yeah, so when they fall below 20% health, they gain safeguard, deflect, and regeneration, so you won't be able to flip that. But I do believe somewhere in there, yeah, they gain defense up, but they also gain safeguard because of death proof. So, you know, probably not going to work against Infinity Watch. This is where the testing is going to come into play. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get playtest access anytime soon. So this is going to be something where we just do theory crafting. We do testing with Morbius in War to see if maybe there's a use to him outside of that kind of team. I wonder also... No, because he's got death proof immunity. I'm just trying to figure out some places where we could try to find something with him where, I mean, I know Marauders get defense up, but that's on spawn. So I'm just scrolling through this slowly. But yeah, again, it's because it's that second turn. If it was a first turn, like, he would become a top tier plug and play War offense character, in my opinion. But moving on from War, another thing to consider as well is going to be Arena, because we see a lot of, like, Loki with your Cersei and Icarus options out there. And if you could possibly bring in something again, if there was a way to give him that ability energy on Morbius on the first turn, he could be flipping those defense up into defense down. You get some kind of combination with your Cersei there and use her ultimate and then deal some more damage. It's tricky, and I think if, as things go on, if we do find a way to get that energy to Morbius on that first turn and let him do his thing, and possibly, I don't know, there's got to be something that I'm not thinking of, and we'll figure it out in the future as we do testing. Maybe it is better as a second turn ability. But I am going to be curious to see how we do with that. And I also mentioned Dark Dimension already, you know, those bleeds, you bring in the Symbiote Spider-Man, you bring in Ghost Spider, you bring in Scarlet Spider, those 4 city characters right there. There's going to be bleed for days all over characters. You've got Shang-Chi coming in, also reducing speed bar on enemy characters if you need to. It's gonna be a fun team to try out. And Dark Dimension, I think at this point, because I'm pretty good on Mystic Gear, I think that's gonna be my plan. We're just waiting to see what these Echo Orbs get for uniques. I'm a little low on Alien Spores for Ghost Spider, but I'm hoping to get her up and going here soon and get that tier 16 on her. So we'll see how that all works out in the future. But I want to hear from you guys. Do you guys have anything? Do you guys think of anything that I missed here? Do you guys have any questions or comments about Morbius and his viability outside of this Dark Hunters team? Let me know down below. But as always, if you guys have enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.